After nearly 4 years of conflict and at least a year of start-stop negotiations, it's become clear that the big sticking point in Ukraine is now the issue of territory. Zelensky made this explicit in his appearance at Davos last week, telling the audience, quote, "It's all about the land. This is the issue which is not solved yet." Earlier this week, however, the Financial Times reported that, to break the impasse, the Trump administration is now trying to leverage the prospect of US security guarantees to force Ukraine to give up Donbas, including the territory Ukraine still controls. If these reports are true, this would be an incredibly bitter pill for Ukraine to swallow. But Zelensky might decide it's a price worth paying for a muscular American security guarantee. Furthermore, some analysts have suggested that, inspired by what happened to Kosovo in the 90s, the legally complicated question of whether the territory would belong to Russia or Ukraine could be essentially postponed, paving the way for a ceasefire. So in this video, we're going to explain Trump's new plan to get a deal in Ukraine, why some people are talking about a pretty controversial Kosovo-style solution for Donbas, and whether any of this will actually work. Want to feel more inside of politics? If so, check out our new range of posters, which take you inside Westminster and the Capitol building, or our map of Brussels, which shows you the true geographic scale of the EU. Click the link in the description for the full collection and get 40% off for a limited time using code FIRESALE. So before we get into it, a quick caveat. In writing this video, we're not endorsing these proposals, and Putin has long used the Kosovo precedent as justification for his illegal invasion of Ukraine. Rather, we're just trying to describe what's currently on the table in the hopes of getting a sense of what a future peace deal might look like. With that covered, let's get into it. The essential problem is that both Russia and the US apparently want Ukraine to give up the 20% or so of Donbas that it still controls, but Zelensky has, for understandable reasons, refused to countenance the idea. We first got a sense that things might be heading in this direction last August, when there were reports that Trump was pushing Zelensky towards some form of a so-called land swap, where Ukraine would give up Donbas in exchange for a Russian withdrawal from the pockets of Ukrainian territory it controls in the north. Zelensky resisted, pushing back against Trump's suggestion that Russia would inevitably take the territory anyway, and noting that the territory contains fortified defensive lines that would be indispensable in protecting Ukraine from future Russian aggression. Furthermore, in order for Ukraine to legally cede any territory, it would have to pass a constitutional amendment which would, in turn, require a public referendum, and it's hard to see Ukrainians voting to give up their own land. Under American pressure, late last year, Zelensky said he'd consider turning the area into a demilitarized free economic zone, which would remain officially part of Ukraine, but the Kremlin quickly signalled that that wouldn't be enough. Anyway, talks have been stuck at an impasse over this issue for the past couple of months, but earlier this week, it was reported by the Financial Times that the Trump administration was trying to break the deadlock by making any US security guarantees contingent on Ukraine giving up Donbas. For context, a security guarantee would basically be a promise from some third party to intervene on Ukraine's behalf if Russia were to attack again after any peace agreement. Russia has long resisted the idea, but Ukraine considers security guarantees to be necessary for any sustainable peace. That's because Russia has a habit of coming back for more in Ukraine. Russia violated the Budapest Memorandum in 2014 and again in 2022. There has been some talk about Europe or some coalition of the willing providing future security guarantees, but Zelensky's made it clear that he thinks that only the US has the military might to meaningfully deter Russia from a future attack. The Trump administration wasn't originally keen on providing a security guarantee, because Trump essentially wanted a clean break from Ukraine and Europe more generally. But if that FT report is to be believed, they've now come around to using the promise of US security guarantees in order to push Ukraine into a deal. This creates a real dilemma for Zelensky, who'll have to decide which he wants more, what remains of Donbas or the much coveted American security guarantee. But even if he goes for the latter, legally speaking, Zelensky still can't cede the territory, for those constitutional reasons we mentioned earlier. This has led some analysts to suggest a Kosovo-inspired middle ground. They point to UN Security Council Resolution 1244, which ended a bloody war between Serbia and ethnic Albanian majority Kosovo in 1999 by forcing Serbian troops to withdraw and placing Kosovo under UN administration, rather than returning it to Serbian control, creating the United Nations Interim Administration Mission in Kosovo. The resolution established a NATO-led peacekeeping force, which essentially acted as a security guarantee, similar to what Ukraine seeks today, and deliberately postponed the question of Kosovo's independence. The resolution granted Kosovo substantial autonomy and self-government, but stopped short of recognising its independence, stating that it should be determined later based on the will of the people. In 2008, Kosovo declared independence, and today functions largely as a de facto independent state whose institutions are governed and policed by Kosovars. While Serbia doesn't recognise Kosovo's independence, and there are occasional flare-ups, the risk of large-scale conflict remains low, and both sides are, under Western mediation, working towards a settlement centred on an association of Serb-majority municipalities with substantial autonomy. US international affairs analyst and former Balkans negotiator Edward P. Joseph has proposed taking inspiration from the resolution as a potential template for Donbas and any other occupied Ukrainian territories, allowing a temporary settlement without immediately resolving the question of sovereignty. Overall, administration of the Donbas could, for instance, be transferred to the UN, or possibly the Organisation for Security and Cooperation in Europe, with a US-backed security guarantee. Under this framework, Russia's sham referendums of 2014 and 2022 would be deemed invalid, with the question of sovereignty deferred until future internationally supervised referendums in the relevant territories. Now, of course, we should say it's entirely possible that Russia would reject this, and demand total sovereignty over the territory. Equally, it would be a bitter pill for Ukraine to swallow. Kyiv would temporarily relinquish control over Donbas and the surrounding areas, a concession likely to face strong domestic opposition. Recent polling, for instance, indicates that a majority of Ukrainians, around 54%, consider transferring Donbas to Russia in exchange for security guarantees categorically unacceptable, while 39% say they would be prepared to accept such a concession, albeit reluctantly. Nevertheless, President Zelensky might be able to justify such an arrangement domestically if he could credibly argue that the Donbas remains legally part of Ukraine, and that the people of Donetsk and Luhansk, and any agreed neighbouring oblasts, would ultimately determine their future through a legitimate, internationally recognised process. Now, if you've stuck around this long, chances are you're passionate about learning and bettering yourself through knowledge, just like us. You're obviously a thinker, and Brilliant is the perfect learning platform to unlock your potential. That's because Brilliant pushes you to excel in maths and computer science, with visual, interactive problem solving and personalised practice. Their website and app is designed to be highly effective, offering the perfect mix of interactive problems, motivating challenges, and encouragement to keep you moving forwards. Here, you can build genuine understanding and reach serious learning goals. On Brilliant, you'll click with concepts you used to struggle with. Their ever-expanding libraries cover everything from timeless topics in maths and science to cutting-edge concepts in AI, quantum, and beyond. Wherever you are on your learning journey, Brilliant will start you at the perfect level to grow and achieve goals at your own pace, with each course being crafted by an award-winning team of teachers, researchers, and professionals from MIT, Harvard, Stanford, Caltech, Google, and more. So, if you want to start learning with confidence and become an even better problem solver, you can try Brilliant for free for a full 30 days. Just go to brilliant.org/TLDR, scan the QR code on screen, or you can click the link in the description. Brilliant's also giving our viewers 20% off an annual premium subscription, which gives you unlimited daily access to everything on Brilliant.